Working? Great. Hello.
Oh, there we go. That's nice. I like it.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, evening, whatever. Afternoon, evening? Evening. I am reliably informed. Evening.
Well, it's the end of the con, and you've got to spend it at the best place, learning how to finish your creative project.
Creator stage.
The creator stage.
You mean learning? Oh, right. Us. Right.
Yes, of course.
Hello, everybody. We are Shades of Vengeance. We create things. We've to date published 200 role-playing games, comics, card games, novels, you name it. We probably had to go. We even had to go to a movie. That was fun.
We finished the movie. We did it.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
You said had to go.
To be clear, we've published these things. They are all available in the real world.
I'm Leo, by the way. That's Ed.
So we thought we'd come here today and talk to you a little bit about how it is that we go about making sure that when we start a project, we finish it. So I'm hoping that that's what all of you guys are here for, and not whatever was We Love Star Wars. Because we aren't doing that. Sorry.
We don't have time travel either, so we can't even do We Love Star Wars. Right, so just to be clear, we're talking about finishing a project in some way, whether that's getting it put online or printed out into a book. It's not about funding it or
selling it or marketing it. No, we're not doing that today. Maybe ask us later, but no promises. We are. Yeah, sorry, brain. Work.
So the main thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to start from the start with a firm foundation. Everyone who's got an idea here, we like to use a little thing called the project paradigm to keep us on track and keep everything sort of have a point of reference.
So what I figure is when you begin a creative project, you are going to want to know what done looks like. Otherwise, how on earth could you possibly finish it? And the project paradigm is my tool in order to figure out how to know when it's done. So in order to create a project paradigm, you start by having a high concept, which most people talk to you about. So Leo, let's have a high concept.
Okay, high concept. Oh, I've got to go for one of my favorites, Ed, and I'm sure everyone has a different image in their head when I'll say this. A comic about cowboys in space.
All right, so that's great as a high concept, but what I like to do next, in order to reach the project paradigm and build that foundation, sorry about my plosives, is to ask why. 5 whys. Anyone who's familiar with project management or even people management may be familiar with that technique. So Leo, why cowboys in space?
Because I love the imbalance of something as old-fashioned as a cowboy being stuck in the fantasy of space.
Okay, awesome. Why?
Because if I say the fantasy of space, I don't have to think about real science or physics or, the stuff that lots of hard sci-fi people really like.
Okay, so you want to focus on the not science bit. Why is that? What kind of story are you trying to tell?
Because it's really cool watching a cowboy ride a starship instead of a horse. It's the Flash, it's the found family and the ragtag crew in a system that just doesn't work anymore, that kind of thing.
Okay, and you mentioned that you want to do a comic. Why a comic?
Because to put the cards out on the table, I don't have the budget for a film. I wish this was a film, but I know I want this action-packed space cowboy comic, so I'll make it visual with the comic.
You talk about action-packed, so there's a focus on the action within that comic then, so maybe less of the science, maybe even less of the character development in favor of action.
100%.
Okay, so from that, and thinking about that, we've designed ourselves a project paradigm, which I would probably, often these take a bit of workshopping, so give me a mo. An action-focused one-shot comic about cowboys in space.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay, awesome. So every time that you're making a decision about your project from then on, you are coming back to that particular project paradigm. I like to write it down, print it out, and hang it on my wall for whatever project I'm doing at the time. You can mood board around that. You can have images or other bits of random stuff.
Inspiration.
That inspire you. Maybe there are space dragons for your cowboys in space. I don't know, whatever works for you. But once you know what that is in your mind, you can start to go, right. And that means I'm not writing a series of comics. I'm not going to worry about really in-depth character development because that's not what I'm trying to do. You've already made that decision. It's not saying it can't change. We'll talk about changing the project paradigm if we have time towards the end. Now, I could go into a lot of detail about world building and writing and all kinds of things, but we don't have time in this very short panel. So you're going to have to forgive me. We're going to skip over a lot of the beginning and the middle of making stuff and talk about the problems that people face that we found that other people have spoken to us about and the advice that we give in order to get around them.
And they're pretty common problems. So we can just rattle it off and get started, shall we?
That said, we do have, I have written a book about how to be creative. You can come and grab that off us afterwards if you're interested in some more of the how to actually do the beginning and middle bit, not including the problems.
So, number one, the most common thing that people tell us, it's perfectionism. Have we got any perfectionists in the audience? Hands up. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Even over here, what a surprise.
Yeah.
So, speaking as a perfectionist, Ed, how do you deal with perfectionism?
So, yeah, I'm absolutely a sufferer of this, and that old saying, perfectionism is the enemy of success, is completely true. So, what you have to do is find tools that are going to allow you to curb that perfectionism, at least to the right degree. There's nothing wrong with wanting a really high standard, that's absolutely fine. But the way in which I approach this is sort of 2 or 3 specific things. First of all, remember that we live in a digital age, right? If you're going to put something out, you have the opportunity to almost infinitely change it. You can update it, you can send a new version to people. My very first book, my first tabletop role-playing game, had what I would call a heinous error as a perfectionist in one of the spaceship tables. It was a tabletop role-playing game, sci-fi one. All of the tables were misaligned. My layout guy had accidentally removed a cell and everything had crept up.
Just saw people clutch their pearls in the audience.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was not impressed. So it happens. That's my point. No matter how hard you work, I spent 2 years on that book. No matter how hard you work, occasionally something slips through. It happened after my last go over it that the layout guy made a change. So what did I do? I made a version 1.1. I sent it out to everyone digitally who had the original version, and I printed a new set of versions and sold those from then on. These things happen. Having a errata list as well, that's the same difference.
To stop yourself from looking over every table that you create in the future, what's the other way to force yourself to not do that?
So, time box, right? First of all, don't try and change everything every time you do something, which we've all done it. Except Leo. Leo's not done it.
For speaking as the person who doesn't know what time boxing is, can you be a bit more specific?
Sure. So, when you are working on your project and you see a problem, make a note about it rather than trying to change it instantly, because, especially if you're writing a novel and you add a few words, you can completely throw off all of your page turns, create widows and orphans everywhere, and, apocalypse now. So don't do that. Make a note that you want to make a change, and then do one run through when you're finished with everything else. That's how you deal with layout problems. But overall, if you time box what it is you're trying to do by going, okay, well, I know at the end of this project, I'm going to spend 20 hours on looking over this project in massive detail. I'm going to spend 5 hours a day for 4 days. That's what I'm going to do. I am not going to allow myself to spend any more time than that, because the truth is, no matter how long you spend on your project, the minute you put it outdoor, someone is going to notice something you missed. It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter how careful you are. You get blind to your own work. There's nothing much you can do about it. So just be aware of it, and like I say, put out a new version when you realise you've made an error that you are embarrassed about.
But Ed, what if the comic I'm making, there's this opening panel that's just so perfect, and I know I can get it in the right spot on the page if I just focus and tweak this and change I don't know enough font words, art things, I need to edit it over and over.
I think that Leo is talking about endless editing, which is the second most common thing we get asked about. I wrote this first chapter, but then I edited it, and then I edited it again, and I never got to the second chapter, because I was always writing the first chapter, or third chapter, or whatever works for you. So the way in which I approach this is pretty simple. When I want to change something, so, you know, like anyone, I'll be writing, I'll get to the end of the first chapter and go, yeah, actually, I didn't want this to be this way, I wanted it that way. I will make a note about what I want to change, and then I will continue writing as if I had already made that change. The truth is that editing is far, far easier than writing on a blank page. So continue writing, continue the flow of your story, deliver your story, come to the end, and then you are going to do an editing run anyway, at least I hope you are. I hope, desperately. But if you, rather than trying to do an edit every 5 minutes because, oh yeah, by the way, I could have rewritten that better, get to the end, make notes as you go, oh yeah, that shouldn't be like that, go back and change this. Then do an edit run, incorporating all those notes in. I guarantee you are far more likely to succeed at any project doing that.
And it's okay to make multiple notes, as we've just explained.
Yeah, make as many notes as you like, it doesn't matter. No one else is going to ever see them, thank goodness. You don't want to see my notes.
There's lots of red ink everywhere.
Lots of red ink.
Okay, the next, third biggest, writer's block. I mean, I would suffer from that if I was a writer, but I'm not. So, how do you deal with the writer's block, Ed?
So, writer's block is actually one of the simplest things to deal with. It's just one of the hardest things to get your head around dealing with. There are three stages of writer's block, if you like. The first stage is write something bad. Like, seriously, you're writing the first draft. Your first draft is going to be garbage.
Challenge for the perfectionists there, but you're going to have to deal with it.
Write something bad, come back and edit it. No one will ever know, it's fine, it's fine. So, write something that's, you know, you're embarrassed about it. Get through that bit and move on to the next bit. You will find that your flow comes back in general. Do not stare at an empty page. Which brings me to the second thing. If you can't bring yourself to write something bad, or you just, even your writer's block is so bad that you can't write something bad, try writing some bullet points about what you want to happen on that page. For example, in your comic, you might be writing about, I don't know, a spaceship chase as your space cowboys try to escape astride their spaceship. I can't visualize that very well.
Astride a spaceship? Where did
That's what you said.
I said writing, you can write in something. I nearly said someone, that would have been bad. Right, listen, you can write inside a ship, it's fine.
Okay.
But yes, I need to write.
They're trying to escape, you can't write it. Okay, on this page, cowboys escape from pursuers by riding on their spaceship. I don't know, whatever. So write some bullet points and then move on to the next piece. The piece that is beyond that, the piece that your block's getting to. Because in general, I find when I speak to people with writer's block, it is because you know that you want to write the next scene and you're kind of stuck on this bit here, so you can't move along, or you feel you can't move along. Which brings me to the pièce de résistance. If you are unable to write bullet points, which does happen to some people, skip it. Go to the next thing that you can actually write and start writing. In a lot of cases, that's actually going to indicate very clearly where to go next. So, like, where to go previously, I'm very sorry. So, you know, when you hit the writer's block point, skip it, move along. Bullet points if you can, write something bad, even better, but do not get bogged down on that thing that you're struggling with writing. Write the next thing, the thing that you can write, the thing you can imagine. You have permission, no one's going to stop you.
Okay, next thing that I used to suffer from this one, and I've started to figure out how to work it through. I just don't have time to work on this thing. It's just, I'm so busy. I'm such a socialite. I've got so many things to do.
I can't help you with being a socialite, sorry Leo. Can't help with that. However, what I do observe is that most people have a lot more time than they think they do. How long did you spend scrolling on TikTok in the last week? Yeah.
I used to have the hours on my screen time, and now I don't have that app anymore.
Yeah, I pointed out to him from that app how long he had spent.
Yeah, if you'd like to know the number, you can ask me at the end of the panel. I'm not saying it while I'm mic'd up.
You're throwing away your time, right? The time you could be using to be creative. It might be Netflix, it might be TikTok, it might be Instagram, it might be whatever. But at the end of the day, you're throwing away the possibility of creating something that you can be proud of for a quick dopamine hit.
But all is not lost, because if you can focus, 10 minutes of focus is better than 2 hours of anything else.
So start by looking for 10 minutes in your day. Where can you find 10 minutes to go, right, I am going to sit down and I am going to work out chapter 4 today. I'm just going to work it out. I'm going to think for 10 quiet minutes. One of the things I recommended to Leo, Leo has a 40-minute commute to work on the tube. What else are you doing? You don't even have signal.
Yep.
So think about the time that you might have, wherever that might be.
And it's also,
That's your imagination.
it's also not about, you're not writing the full chapter. You could be writing bullet points again, or you could skip to the end of, you know, we're going back to our righteous block solution.
You don't even have to write anything during that 10 minutes, because if you can work out what it looks like and what you're going to be doing, and make sure, obviously, that it aligns to your project paradigm, you're probably going to be in a good stead when you do sit down to write next. You can do a lot of that mental work, A, subconsciously, and B, in those short focus times. So don't underestimate the power of some focus time.
Getting a little bit more organized is hard. I'm still working on it, but we take it as we go, making a little schedule, even if the schedule is, oh, this day I'm going to the gym, so I'm going to figure out, or this day I've got insert event here, you know.
Yes, cardio. Cardio is a great time to do actual thinking.
What kind of cardio? What kind of cardio are you doing? I can't think, but never mind. But enough about me thinking. The main point
One
is,
foot in front of another does take a lot of brain power.
if you mess up your schedule, don't try and chase the end of it. Oh, I was supposed to do writing on Wednesday, but I went out for dinner instead, and now I have to catch up. I was supposed to do 3 pages, and now I've got to do 6 pages on Friday. Don't do that, because you're just going to punish yourself.
Yeah, that is really, really important. So if your schedule doesn't work out because life, reschedule, right? Schedule is a guess. It's an estimate of what you think might happen. And it's okay if it's wrong, because you don't know everything that might happen. So yeah, do a reschedule, figure it out again, and begin moving forward rather than going, oh, I've got to catch up those 6 pages I didn't do this week. Won't help anyone.
So, we've come into a dilemma with my Space Cowboys comic, Ed. I'm a little bit bored, and those space dragons sound really, really interesting, and there's a little gremlin in my head going, why don't you do a comic about those instead? And I want to build more and more projects. What do I do?
So this is one of the hardest ones that a lot of people face. You know, so many ideas, so little time, right? The answer is actually pretty simple. If you have another idea, that's absolutely fantastic. Write some notes down. You know, write down, oh yeah, I want to do space dragons, I want to do this and this and this and this. Giant dragon eggs that someone came across, I don't know, whatever. And then put that away in a drawer and continue with your project, because that's not going to go anywhere. But if you keep stopping the project that you originally wanted to do, you will never ever complete it. There's some degree of, right, and I can reward myself with this other project when I finish this first project. There's some degree of, you know what, I may never actually see that thing come to life, and that's the way it is. There is a little bit of discipline involved here, and I know that that's not always easy, believe me. But it does pay off. And in the end, when you know that you can focus on a single project and bring that project to life, you know that the second project idea that you had during it, you will also be able to bring that to life. You've already proven you can do it. So don't give up. Don't go, oh, I'm never going to do that. It's never. No, that's going in a drawer for 6 weeks until I finish this project. Then I'm really excited to work on it.
Okay, next up, as a result of the too many projects, perhaps, it gets a bit boring. You know, some bit of it's really hard, and it just doesn't spark like it did at the start.
Does not spark joy any longer. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the truth is about creative projects is it's not going to be all fun and games right from the beginning to the end. There's going to be some hard stuff in there. There's going to be some stuff that you don't want to do. For some people, that is proofreading, Leo.
Don't talk to me about proofreading in public.
The point is that we use our version of the 80-20 rule for this. 80% of the project will feel like 20% of the total effort you put in. Why? Because it's the stuff you wanted to do. It's the world building or the character creation or the designing the spaceship, if that's your thing. And then the last 20% of the project will feel like 80% of the effort. It will be all of the things you do not want to do.
Proofreading, formatting, insert menial task here that's really, really dumb.
Don't be so mean to proofreaders, they save your backside.
I know they do, but that's not the point.
Hell yes. So, do you think, hey, 80-20 rule here, am I just hitting that 20% that I don't like? Do you also think, has something gone wrong with my project paradigm? I wanted to do this thing at the start. Has your comic got so out of control that actually, now you're thinking of doing 5 comics, and the actual scale of it is feeling overwhelming, so how could you possibly finish the first one? Have you lost track of your project paradigm, the thing that you wanted to do and why you wanted to do it? Maybe you got really, really character focused. Maybe you delved into the backstory and the politics of Space Cowboy region.
Space Cowboy, well actually no, let's not go down that road. I can hear, George Lucas is licking his lips already.
Okay. Alright. So, at the end of the day, that 20% that you need to finish is the difference between having it just in your head and having something real in your hands. And believe me, there is no feeling quite like having something real in your hands that you have created yourself. I promise. It's worth it. It's hard, but it's worth it.
So, it's really hard, but what if I mess up? Like, what if it's just, you know, what if I fail at the thing I'm trying to do? Because I really like this thing, but doing it feels difficult. You know, fear of failure, that's another big one on our list.
So, I've got a few answers for that, because like any perfectionist, I absolutely have a fear of failure. First of all, it's better to make something that you're proud of, or somewhat proud of, than make nothing at all, right? That you can look at and go, yeah, you know what, maybe it needs another version, maybe I screwed up this and this, but at least I can bring something to life that otherwise wouldn't exist. Also, I'm no psychiatrist at all, believe me, but what is the worst thing that happens? Like, people don't like it and don't read it? I mean, you like it, I'm sure, and what I will say is I guarantee you that if you like it, there will be other people who like it. Because you are not that unique. Sorry, you're not that unique.
It's also kind of how conventions started in the first place. We're all here because we like lots of similar things in a big fun Venn diagram.
And if you always wanted to see space cowboys riding their starships, then, you know, it's probably someone else did too. Sorry, Leo, I am really ragging on you.
Going for the Space Rider, there's the title, Space Rider Volume 1. Don't forget the timeline development will be different too. So when you're starting out, try not to compare yourself to the person that's been making stuff for decades. I did that because I'm trying to make a game like what he's making, and it's really difficult.
Yeah, his grasp on grammar isn't brilliant either.
That's what the proofreaders are for.
The point is that, yes, I've made a tabletop role-playing game in 6 months. I've also made one in 2 years. I'm currently working on one I've been working on since COVID. So 5+ years now. Every project has its own timeline, and it's not specific to the person even, let alone, you know, the genre that you are working in. So work at your pace. That's okay. Work out what your pace is. Do hold yourself accountable to it. I think we're covering that in a minute. But work at your pace, and that's okay. There's no right answer to this.
I feel like accountability is a good time to talk about accountability. So that's a learning process. sometimes it helps to have a friend who's a lot more organized and will message you at random points in the day and go, hey, you made a plan for this thing to get done. Is it done?
Yeah, and sometimes you have to be the annoying friend who messages him and says, you said you were going to do this thing, have you done it?
Yeah.
Another way of doing it is obviously to self-manage. I like to use an application on my phone called ZenKit to do. It's free, it's brilliant, very, very simple to use, and you can just date the tasks that you expect to do. Really like that, personally. But find your thing. It might be post-it notes on the wall. It doesn't matter. Find your thing, figure out what your timescales are, what's reasonable, and again, coming back to if your schedule goes wrong, don't beat yourself up over it, reschedule. Just go, right, that didn't happen this week, these things happened. It wasn't me being lazy, I don't need to beat myself up over it. Bad things happened, my bath started leaking, that did happen.
Life does get in the way. Also, make your goals, for me at least, make them a little smaller, because you're going to learn what your limits are. So if you try and go, oh, I love this, I'm great, I'm going to do 10 things, and then you don't do 10 things.
Kind of doomed to failure if your expectations are really, really high in the first short while.
Mini goals are the important bit.
I was going to say, one of the things you can do to counter that is begin by saying, right, well, I think in the next hour I will finish this thing, and then see if that's actually true. Or did you only get half of it done in the hour? So maybe your expectations are unrealistic. You can start to build an expectation around your pace moving through that task. It can be very useful.
So the other common sort of paradigm-related block is when you're looking at something, you might realize it's a skill you don't have. This comic about space cowboys, I don't think it should be stickmen, but that's all I can draw. So maybe I need someone to work with me on that.
So obviously, you can build a team to work with. Leo's kryptonite is proofreading, as we've alluded to. So we have a proofreader on our team who works with us regularly. You can find people online. Ideally, if you're bringing someone into your project, you would pay them. Not everyone has budget. We all understand that. You can also find collaborators. If you're going to be a collaborator with someone on a project, bear in mind you may have to relax some of your expectations for the project, but again, the project paradigm can bring you both to the same rough place, and then you can talk about the details. One of the things, I once had someone come to me and say, he was working on a game with me, and he said, Ed, this TV series just came out, and it's literally the same as the role-playing game. It's already been done, it's hopeless, I give up on the project. Now, my reaction to that might not have been quite what you expect, because I just said, okay, tell me about this thing. Told me about it. It was the TV series Carnival Row, which was quite big a few years back, and he wanted to do a Victoriana werewolves and vampires thing. Fair enough. I said, hang on, what you've explained to me is nothing like the world that you've actually built here. It's like, yes, on the surface, maybe it's a Victoriana thing, and it's got creatures. That's the end. That's the end of the similarity. Sorry. Please remember that the legal threshold for copyright is 15% different. And to the layman, what that really means is, if you're not doing something deliberately wrong, if you're not deliberately stealing from people, you are going to be okay. You are not going to have a problem. So don't do anything dishonest and you'll be fine.
It's also worth bearing in mind. Sorry? It's a rule for life. Don't do anything dishonest, you'll be fine.
That is true. It is also worth bearing in mind that a rising tide raises all ships. If someone else has done it and Carnival Row was hugely popular at the time, it's probably going to mean there are a lot of people who binge watch that and then want something else. You actually have an opportunity there to position yourself. One of my role-playing games a couple of years ago, I wrote it completely oblivious, as a matter of fact, which is hilarious. It shows you my marketing skills. I made a game where you play as a kaiju, and that was exactly the time that Godzilla -1 and Godzilla X Kong came out. So suddenly, my sales just go whoop, and I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that worked. All right, fair
That's
enough.
what we call being lucky.
Yeah, that's called being lucky. But my point is, something being popular at the time can mean that a lot more people are looking for what it is that you're creating.
So I've started a draft on my comic, and someone said they don't like the font. How am I supposed to deal with that one?
So this is a conversation about feedback versus criticism. And speaking as a perfectionist and someone who is emotionally invested in my work, I don't like criticism any more than anyone else does, believe me. So what do you do if you want to try to deal with these things in a mature way, which I'm sure we all really want deep down? After the screening. No, but seriously, what you do is you put it away in a drawer if you're having an emotional reaction to it, because you are not considering it properly. You're going, no, I don't agree. You're wrong. You're wrong. You can't be right. You can't possibly be right, because that would mean I'm wrong. And I can't be wrong, because I made it. So how can I be wrong? If you're having an emotional reaction to it, that's fine. Like, that is human. That is normal. It's one of the most human things I do, I believe, Leah. However, if you put it away, you are going to mull over it in your subconscious. You can come back to it a week later. Don't expect to remember. Set yourself some kind of calendar reminder, or again, whatever works for you. I like to use ZenKit to do for that. They're not paying me. I'm just a fan.
It's a free app.
It's free. So yes, don't be afraid to put it away in a drawer, not think about it for a week, come back to it, revisit it. Do they have any level of point there? Is there a good reason why they don't like the font? Are they struggling to read some of the words? Is that what they really need?
Maybe it's the color palette.
Now, quite often you won't actually get that answer from the feedback itself. You need to look at that feedback and be able to analyze it, which is why I say if you have an emotional reaction, don't do it immediately. But think about, do you agree? Is there any tiny kernel of truth in what they're saying? I once had someone tell me that one of my role-playing games is absolute crap. Why? It didn't have stats for a dog. That was his reasoning. He said it was absolutely crap, regretted ever buying it, left me a 1-star review, didn't have stats for a dog. Wow, okay. Dogs are canonically not existing in this universe, and he didn't read the book properly. Yeah, there is some criticism that is just not even worth the time of day. Being able to identify that means removing that emotion from it. That's why taking a step back and giving yourself time if you have an emotional reaction is so important.
So is it time for the real secret then?
The real secret. The real secret of finishing 200 projects, the thing that's got me through absolutely everything. I'm really, really sorry because it's a massive anticlimax. It's JFDI.
Just flip and do it.
Oh, that one, yeah, that. Yeah, I'm not allowed to swear on stage, you told me. The thing is that, yeah, you've got to be stubborn about it. You've got to want it. The project paradigm can help guide you in that direction. It can make you want to do the thing. You can remind yourself every day that this is the thing you want. I might argue that that's actually easier for perfectionists as well, because you wouldn't want to fail, would you?
Another open challenge to the perfectionists. Come on, meet us. We're throwing the gauntlet down. Also, little note, don't worry about the time scale. The project I've been working on has been in work for 7 years. That's because life is life and is busy. And I keep falling in and out of love with my project.
In short, start your project with a firm foundation. Remember that when you get towards the end, the last 20% of the project, you're going to do a lot of things that you are not going to enjoy, but it is worth it. It is not worth spending your life making the 80% of the project that no one ever sees. You will regret that a lot more than you will regret spending the time on finishing that thing that you have created.
You can do this, because you're all sitting here and you're already interested.
Yeah, you've listened to us for half an hour, so you can clearly sit and do something for half an hour, even if you don't want to.
I think we've got some time for some questions.
So, we are going to give you the opportunity to ask any questions. I know that we've had to miss talking about certain things. Oh no, we're good, thank you. We're fine, we're good.
That's my job now.
We are giving a copy of our book, The Writer's Journey, which I wrote. It's a choose-your-own adventure about being about how to be a good writer. where every dead end is a writing mistake and how not to do it. So if you stick your hand up and ask a question, you get a book about writing. So what more could you ask?
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay. You talked a lot about general project management, and this requires a lot of self-awareness and discipline. How do you stay self-aware? Not necessarily disciplined, but how do you stay self-aware about what is happening?
In what sense exactly do you mean? Can you give me maybe a for instance? Because I could answer that question in a lot of ways, that's all.
Let's take the 80-20 example.
Okay. So you hit a point in the project, and the way that I deal with, is this an 80-20 problem or is this something else, is I take a step back and I look at it, right? I go, is this me just I don't feel like it today? And if I don't feel like it for 5 days in a row, does that mean I've got a problem here, right? I start asking myself questions. Why? Why is a very important and useful question in creativity. So if you are wondering, hey, you know, I was going to write 5,000 words today, I didn't write anything, but why? Oh, I just didn't feel like it. Okay, well, that can happen, that's okay. If it becomes a pattern, because you can then make a note, right, this day. So it's building tools that work for you personally. This is what works for me personally. It may work for you, it's definitely a starting point. At least I hope so. I hope that helps.
Discipline.
A little bit.
Hiya. During your writing, paper, digital, voice, all of these, what would you suggest to kind of get started? Because I've got lots scattered everywhere, but not necessarily all in one place.
I know that feeling, believe me. I like digital, and I have a good reason behind it, right? It's searchable. So you've got loads and loads of stuff, and I know I had a piece of paper somewhere that had that thing about that background that I want to now bring into the story, and you're frantically searching through a filing cabinet if you're lucky, and if you're unlucky, then a big stack of papers on a spike. So I like digital for that reason. I do absolutely use voice. I am known, and my wife is long-suffering to say the least, because I will be lying down in bed trying to go to sleep, and I'll be like, oh, that thing I've been working on, I just worked it out. I will pick up my phone, I use otter.ai, I think it's brilliant, speech to text, and I will go, yeah, note about, a lot of the recordings sound very funny, it's like, yeah, note about this, I make sure this thing happens. Because I'm 3/4 asleep, but I've just solved that problem. Ultimately, there's no one right answer here, but those are the reasons that I like those things. I like to feel the letters as I'm typing them, so I like to type digitally and I don't just speak it. Also, speech to text, not perfect, but for a quick note, you just can't beat it.
Scope creep. I am that person who I think I know what the project is, start writing it, immediately becomes a trilogy. And then I get stuck because I'm like, is it really a trilogy? Is it a trilogy? Is it 3 separate projects? And I get lost in a mind tunnel. And then the other side of scope creep is when you hit a research wall. And that can also be a stumbling block. What do you do about that?
Okay, hang on to the microphone for a second,
Yes.
because I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm sorry about this,
Fine.
right? But you can tap out at any time. What is a trilogy?
Actually, I was just pulling that out of the sky.
No, but it's a good example, right? What is a trilogy?
It's 3 different chapters.
3 self-contained stories.
Yeah.
So it's fine. If you're going to write a trilogy, that's fantastic. If you believe at the beginning it's one book and you can see potential for more afterwards, fantastic, brilliant. But you're still going to need to finish that one book. That one book has an ending as it has a beginning.
Well, the problem then becomes, well, hang on, what is this book and what is something? It's actually like the idea becoming unstable. I guess that's the problem.
So again, that's where the project paradigm comes in. You've already kind of made those decisions, and let's face it, a lot of people retcon bits in a second or third book, that is far from unknown. The other thing that might happen is you might get to the end of writing your book, you might even be finished with it, and choose not to publish it until you've written the second book, so you can do one more edit pass if you actually make further changes. You shouldn't be afraid of that, but I would still say always focus on where you're at. Again, like with second, like alternate projects, make notes about what the other two books look like. Time box yourself, give yourself an hour to sit down and write what happens in your second book, what happens in your third book, another hour maybe, like 2 separate hours for one for each book. And then, go back to writing the book you're writing. Rather than getting distracted by, oh, but this is so much bigger, so much wider, so much larger. Yes, it is, and you'll see it when you get to that book. I hope that helps.
Thanks.
We're doing fine for time, don't worry. Got like 10 more minutes.
I have all of the problems that you listed, and when they just come crashing on you at the same time, it's extremely demotivating. For example, I had an idea for a story, and I told it to a couple of friends. And one friend said that it's exactly what Neil Gaiman already wrote. The other friend said that they made it into a Black Mirror episode, and I won't even tell you what the third friend told me. So I was like, invested into this idea, but then got demotivated at the start because I'm a perfectionist and I can't do it better than Neil Gaiman. Help?
Have you ever heard of Thanos?
Yes.
Do you know that Thanos is a complete rip-off of Darkseid?
Oh, I had no idea.
Yep, no, literally. And then, even funnier, it went straight back to Mongol in the DC universe.
Okay.
They literally copied the same, but they didn't copy their own character, they copied the Marvel character to make Mongol. There is no such thing as a new idea, and I know that sounds incredibly nihilistic, but the point is, the thing that makes what you make special is the way in which you do it. The fact that your story bones are the same as another thing does not mean you're going to execute it in the same way. And no, no offense meant, you're probably not going to execute it as well as Neil Gaiman. But what you might do is execute it in a way that speaks to people in a way that his work does not, because of your life experience and your way of delivering it.
So I need to catch up with people's hands. So keep hands up after if you got more questions, okay?
So what happens if you've redrafted an idea and
Redraft an idea, yeah.
the original idea that you really liked, like you wrote a scene or a chapter and you really, really liked it, and in redrafting your idea you think, this doesn't work. I can't use the thing that I really loved, the chapter that I started with, and I really liked it, and I know to make the whole thing work, I have to get rid of it, but I really don't want to because I love that idea, but it just doesn't work anywhere else. And the best thing is probably for it to go, but you just can't bear to get rid of it.
Well, you have two choices there, right? You're only stating one choice, which is get rid of it. The other is change your project so that it does fit. That should not be an option that you get rid of. We're talking about, at the end of the day, we're talking about passion projects. If you are that passionate, and I can see you're passionate about the thing you're talking about, you are really proud of it. If you're that passionate about it, maybe the way in which you framed your project is wrong, not the piece of writing that you did that you're proud of. Try turning it around, turn it on its head. Have a go at that. Maybe you can redefine your project so that it does work, and the rest of the project hinges around this particular thing. We've actually done that, Leo and I. It turned into our movie, Occupied, in the end.
Can I get some more hands up? I've seen them in... Oh, over this way? Okay.
Oh well, it's gone up and down, but I...
Okay, so this way and this way.
That way.
So my problem is when I have a good idea, I think one of my weaker points is marketing. Like, I wonder, should I just self-publish my idea or should I send it to publishers? But what if they don't like the idea? What if they want something different? And if it does become a success, what if like I'm just obligated to write more? Like, should I just approach publishers or just self-publish? Because although ideally I'd like to make a living out of it, I think the important thing is that I publish something and I'm proud of it.
So, There is no one right answer to this, which is why there are multiple options. My advice to you, based on what you've just said, would be, if you're talking about your first piece of work, which is what I'm believing, self-publish it. And I'll give you my reason. Publishing gives you all of the marketing in the world, right? It gives you all of those things that you need to sell lots and lots of books. But, as you pointed out absolutely correctly, it removes your control over your project. If you're talking about your first project, I would always recommend that you get it out into the world on your terms. It is up to you. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. That's what I would do. As you do more and more projects, you are likely to feel that they are less and less the darling that you must have exactly the way you want it. And I'm not saying that you don't care. What I'm saying is you feel a bit more flexible about certain things. And at that point, maybe you start looking at publishing it through a publishing company. Again, of course, bear in mind, you might submit to 50 publishing companies and get nothing but rejections. This does happen. It is not uncommon. So that would be my advice to you.
At what point, when you're going through a project and trying to evaluate it, do you consider, like, maybe it's the project paradigm that's wrong, and you need to try and steer it in a different direction? Like, at what point do you think, I don't think I can change this in a way that it's going to work for that?
Yeah, I said I'd come back to it and I didn't. Changing the project paradigm needs to be, like the lady back there, it needs to be something that you have in mind, right? If you find that it comes up with 80-20, it comes up with a variety of other things. But if you find that you are not enjoying the project, if you're not interested, if it's not something you care about anymore, you should be looking at project paradigm and thinking, why? Have I changed? Have I drifted off the project paradigm? If you've changed, your interests have changed. You're just not that into sci-fi anymore. Like, you saw too many bad sci-fi. Not that I think that's possible, but, you know. And you're not that into sci-fi anymore. Okay, fine. So maybe your paradigm needs to change. You might be able to salvage quite a lot of your work, because a lot of work ends up being character-driven, depending on your medium. I'm assuming you're a writer here. So a lot of work ends up being character-driven, so you might be all right, and you might be able to salvage a lot of it. But you do need to be prepared to say, hey, I might want to change my project paradigm. Now, if you do that, it's like the gentleman behind you was saying, you need to have some self-awareness about the fact that if you do that every 5 minutes, it's no different from doing another project every 5 minutes. So have a really good reason why it is that you can justify to yourself about changing it. It's a big deal. When you have your reason, put away your project, again, for a week, getting rid of that emotional aspect of it, come back to it. Do I still feel this way? Am I going to regret changing that project paradigm and making this a different project? If you're still really sure, yes, change your project paradigm. Change your project round to be relating to the scene that you like. Change your character because the main character isn't the main character anymore. If that's what you need to do, then do it. But you need to feel a passion, or your project is very unlikely to succeed.
Hi. So I've been working on a movie for a while. A screenplay for a while. And, it's gone about 8 months now. And I started looking online, and I was wondering, well, most people, they get it done in, 12 weeks, or 2 months, or 1. And I realized pretty quickly it was silly to feel that way. But then it bothers me anyway. And it's like, it's this feeling of it shouldn't bother me, but it does. How can I not let it bother me?
Are you... Oh, sorry, Leo, please. Yeah, go.
So that comes with time, but it also is a case of learning the things that annoy you and going, oh, that's the thing that annoys me. So I, as you can tell by the fact I talk, I do audio stuff and I record things, and I have tons of bad habits. He knows. Mid-recording, I'll stop things because you learn to cope as you write stuff. So doing your thing in 8 months, I'm a terrible writer. That's great. Don't let someone saying, oh yeah, I did this in 12 weeks. They're lying. they finished their final draft in 12 weeks.
Or perhaps they didn't go from idea to screenplay in 12 weeks, right? What if they've been working on that idea for 5 years, sort of tweaking it, and you would have no idea. You don't know what time they are measuring when they say 12 weeks. They might mean from when I put pen to paper, it was 12 weeks, but they might have done a full outline of exactly what it was going to look like beforehand. With movies, in particular, there is no correct timeline. Now, might it physically take you 12 weeks to write 1,000 pages of movie script? Yeah, that doesn't sound insane. However, that doesn't mean that every word is great. If you are trying to make your thing good as you can make it, being a first time, I assume again, first time movie scriptwriter, then take your time. That's fine. I mean, you look at things, a really good example, The Matrix, one of my favorite movies, right? They wrote that movie, I don't know how long they took to write the script, but I guarantee you they wrote that movie over a decade. Like, it took them a decade to write that movie in their minds, even if it didn't take them that long to produce it, like the actual script. Matrix Reloaded, not such a good movie. Why not such a good movie? Done in 2 years. From beginning of idea to end of idea, done in 2 years. It's not as clear cut as that. You see that a lot in sequels, in particular, when the sequel is rushed. Why is it bad? Because they did it in 2 years. So people writing scripts in 12 weeks, yeah, sure, great. It won't be a good script, but they'll write it. And this comes back to what we were saying about not comparing against other people. Even a professional scriptwriter writes bad scripts. So I understand that it's very hard to not get in your own head about it. I don't know what your sort of mental resources are, or your emotional resources are, I might say. You might want to look into some tools in which, some tools with which people manage that kind of anxiety. They exist. I hope that helps. And seriously, good luck. Don't give up. I want to see more movies written by people and not AI, please.
Yes, agreed. Can we, 2 more questions, really quickly, maybe?
So this is a little bit similar to a previous question you were asked, but it's a bit broader in scope. Let's say you've finished writing the second draft all on your own. You've done as much work on it as you think you can. It's not done yet. There's still more that you can't just upload it to the internet. There's proofreaders and editors and stuff, but let's say you're doing it independently. What would be your steps in order to start that, to look into getting it made up to a professional quality before you want to bring it online?
Thank you for finishing up that question, because I was going to ask why can't you upload it to the internet? Now I know the answer. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, are you the right person to edit this work? And from what I'm hearing, the answer is no, right? You don't think you are. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but I'm going to proceed under that assumption. So, given that, you are going to want to find someone who is going to read your work, comment on your work in a knowledgeable way, and tell you what needs to change, right? There are 2 ways you can do that. You can bring in a collaborator. I would recommend that you might look on a place like DeviantArt, where there are more writers than you might think on DeviantArt. So you might want to look at a place like that. I'm just struggling with words today. So you might want to look at that. Or, if you have a budget, you do not have to pay large amounts of money in order to have someone look at your work. You will have an editor who will look at your work, and you can find good ones for, I don't know, maybe $1 a page. It's not too bad finding those. Now, I don't know how large a piece of work is, so, obviously that's how long is a piece of string. But it's not too bad finding people who will look at it, will give you comments. I found a couple of people who will read over it and give some comments. So don't be afraid of looking outside if you think you're wrong for it. Another alternative, if you do decide you want to do it yourself, is to, again, separate yourself from it for a period of time. For me, for my first book, it was 6 months before I came back to edit it. that can help, because then you're looking at it with much more fresh eyes. That's the other alternative.
Hey, this is going to be our last question, but if you've got any questions, come see us at the end. I know I'm being cheeky, but I'm going to do it now, okay? I know. You can death steer me later.
Yeah, thanks so much. This has been really, really great. Really appreciate this.
Welcome.
Quick question. It's one for both of you, really. You've done loads of projects. There must have been a project that you've committed to, you've spent weeks, maybe months on, and then you've gone, oh, I can't swear, but you know.
Can't do that.
Yeah, oh dear. How do you pivot from that, get yourself out of the rabbit hole you've made put yourself in, and complete that project to be something that you can be proud of as a perfectionist, for example?
Firstly, and I'll let Leo answer afterwards because he's doing the book thing. Firstly, forgive yourself for making the mistake, right? That's the first thing you have to do, because if you're beating yourself up about the mistake, you're never going to fix the things that went wrong. That's first. Once you've done that, you just have to get back up. You have to get back up again and go, right, how am I changing my project paradigm to make this not happen anymore? What was actually the problem? There was one particular project, a comic that I did, where I had a brilliant artist for the first 7 pages, and then he vanished, and to this day, maybe he got hit by a car, I mean, God, I hope not, but I have no idea what happened. So I was like, oh, well, that's a dead project. How on earth am I ever gonna... So what did I do? I went out, I think I must have gone through 200 artists looking for someone who would be on my budget and have a similar enough style that it wouldn't be jarring. You go, you know what, that sucked. That was really bad. And now I want to finish this project enough that I am going to put time in to turn this around. It comes back to that stubbornness I was talking about, where if you are not willing to give up your project, you will find a way, because there is always a way. I'm going back to the lady behind you again. Sorry, I'm picking on you loads, but you know what? You made a mistake, maybe, with your project, thinking that it was this thing. You need to flip it. That's okay. It might mean that you need to redefine, and it might mean your project takes way longer. But again, that's okay too. So don't give up. Think your way around the problem and figure out what you're going to do about it. That's what it comes down to. And I'm sorry, that's not a great answer, but it's the answer I've got.
And if you're me, you find other people to help you think your way around the problem. The only thing I can think of is I had a falling out with one of the writers, and it was my fault because I didn't know how to communicate. Anyway, that's us. If you want to come and talk to us, the hooks come out. We need to go. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We also have a panel tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. 1
o'clock about audio drama. So if you're interested in that,
and if you're into role-playing games, we're doing a workshop where we build a role-playing game tomorrow afternoon at 3. So thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely evening.
Have a great weekend, everybody.